Hey everyone, it's Don with Don's Field of Dreams Cards, coming to you with a video tonight that is the fourth in the series of ball players that played in the Negro leagues and had the opportunity to play in the major leagues. And tonight I'm going to go over Connie Johnson. You can see here I'm showing him in his 1957 Topps card. And Connie's real name is Clifford Johnson Jr., but I'll get to that later, why he's not called Connie, or is called Connie instead of Clifford. Going to do something a little bit different starting with this series. Going to go over the baseball cards that each player is on. And Connie is the first pitcher that I'm going to be representing in this series, or as my friend Picker Jim S. would say, pitcher. But Connie was on 4 Topps cards, and I'm going to concentrate only on Topps and Bowman cards that these guys were on. Even though some of them were on a Mother's Cookies, Dan D, Chips cards, Burke Ross. So Connie Johnson had 4 Topps cards, did not have any Bowman cards. His first card, or his rookie card, is the 1956 Topps number 326. He has a 1957 Topps number 43, which I'm featuring here. His 1958 Topps number 266. And his last card in 1959, Topps number 21. So Connie Johnson was born on December 27th, 1922, Stone Mountain, Georgia, which actually today is December 27th. That's kind of a coincidence there, almost 100 years later. But Connie started off playing softball when he was young, and the few times that he would try his hand at semi-professional baseball, he told Joe Pazansky from the Kansas City Star, and also a recent author of, I think it's called 100 Best, about the 100 Best Baseball Players. Great book if you get a chance to read it. But he didn't really seem to like baseball that much, and he was getting heckled by girls in the stands calling him Ichabod Crane. And by the end of the game, he was attracting so much positive attention from these women because he was pitching well, that he said, "Oh man, now I'm the greatest player in the world. Girls trying to catch and kiss me," Johnson recalled. So Johnson was still an extremely inexperienced player when the Monarchs came to Atlanta in the summer of 1940 for a series against a ragtag Toledo Crawford squad. And the Toledo team was short of pitchers, and they had hoped to find a local player to take the mound. And Connie Johnson's neighbor, Joe Green, who had played for the Monarchs, suggested the 17-year-old Johnson. And despite his, concerns that he wasn't a hardball player, Johnson was put in a jersey several sizes too large, and he was a lanky 6'4" tall, and he was sent out to the field, and he ended up keeping the Monarchs at bay that day with his blazing fastball. And Johnson he wanted to see the world. His brother was a chauffeur, and he traveled around the country, and Johnson dreamed of visiting the big cities and seeing California. So on the Monday following that game, the Crawfords' part owner, former Olympic track star Jesse Owens, showed up at the rock quarry where Johnson was working with the team's manager, and they offered him a contract. And after being assured that the team would make stops in Chicago, New York, and New Orleans, and after asking and being given his mother's permission, Johnson signed with the team at the end of 1940. Johnson appeared in the Negro League's East-West All-Star Game, becoming the youngest player ever to do so. And at first, Johnson was intimidated by the company of baseball stars that he played with, and he didn't know the name of the players, so he used the nickname Connie to address any player whose name he couldn't remember. The Monarchs, in turn, bestowed the nickname on Johnson and stuck, so that's where the Connie Johnson comes from. And if you look up Cliff Johnson or Google it, you're going to get Cliff Johnson, from the catcher from the Astros in the 70s. So Connie Johnson is what you need to look up. And Connie was a good pitcher in the major leagues. Former manager Buck O'Neill told Joe Pazansky, the Kansas City Star, he was a great pitcher in the Negro leagues, though. He threw hard for the Monarchs, hard. He had good control. Could have won 20 games in the big league. Could have won 20 games every year. And friends told Johnson that he had the stuff to follow quickly in Jackie Robinson's footsteps, but the pitcher showed no enthusiasm for that prospect. When his sister pointed out that he might have been pitched against some of the best players in the game if he had been in the major leagues earlier, Johnson replied, "I've been doing that for 10 years. So a high point of Johnson's first career trip to the 1942 Negro League World Series with the victorious Monarchs was over, Johnson enlisted in the United States Army and remained in the service, serving a stint in the European theater until the end of World War II. And he was pitching in intra-military contests, often racking up more than 15 strikeouts per game against the less than major league talent of the batters that he faced. And the heavy work took a toll on his. The heavy workload took a toll on his Johnson's pitching arm. But he resumed his career with the Monarchs in 1946 after returning to the United States. And then playing for a team in St. Hyacinthe, Quebec in 1951, Johnson led the Canadian Provincial League in strikeouts and at one point won 11 games in a row. By this time, Johnson's fabled fastball was a shadow of his former self. Years of injuries and rough treatment had damaged his arm to a point where he could barely raise it over his head. Johnson recalled his manager's advice: "Connie, if you're ever going to win 20 games this season, you're going to have to beat them when you got no stuff." So Johnson developed a curveball and a slider to go with his fastball, but Johnson said, "I couldn't break glass," he once said of his curveball. So at the end of the season, his contract was purchased by the Chicago White Sox in 1952. And Johnson was assigned to the Class A Colorado Springs team, where he finished 18-9 with a 3.38 ERA. And he set a Western League record with 233 strikeouts. He was then promoted to the White Sox and made his major league debut at the age of 30 on April 17, 1953. And during his rookie season at Chicago, Johnson pitched in 14 games, starting 10 of them, going 4-4 with a 3.56 ERA and 44 strikeouts. After spending the entire 54 season in the minors with the AAA Charleston Senators, Johnson started 16 games for Chicago in 1955. He finished the season 7-4 with a 3.5 ERA and 72 strikeouts. During that midseason, Johnson was traded by the Chicago White Sox along with Mike Fornellis, Hall of Famer George Kell, and Bob Neiman to Baltimore Orioles in exchange for Jim Wilson and Dave Philly. Johnson started 25 games for the Orioles in 56, going 9-10, and 3.43 ERA with 133 strikeouts, including 2 shutouts and 9 complete games. His most productive season came in 57, when he finished 14-11 with a 3.20 ERA for a lousy team that finished in 5th place in the then 8-team American League. And besides, Johnson posted career numbers in starts 30, complete games 14, shutouts 3, and innings 242. So during his final season in 1958, Johnson was the opening day starter for the Orioles and defeated the Washington Senators 6-1 at Memorial Stadium. Overall, he went 6-9 with a 3.88 ERA and 68 strikeouts. In his 5-year major league career, Johnson finished with a 40-39 record and a 0.344 ERA in 123 pitching appearances, and 100 of those were starts. That included 34 complete games and 8 shutouts, with striking out 497 and walking 257 in 716 innings of work. So after his career, Johnson continued to make his home in Kansas City, and he worked for the Ford Motor Company, retiring in 1985, living there into his old age. In later years, he often answered interviewers' questions about Satchel Paige and recalled his Monarchs teammate's speed in a segment of the Ken Burns television documentary Baseball. But details of his own career emerged only slowly. "I had a good time," Johnson told interviewer Eric Enders. "I have no regrets. The world owes me nothing. If anything, I might owe the world." He lived in a nursing home at the end of his life, and sources disagree with the exact date of his death, but most sources believe that he died in 2004 at the age of 81. So as always, guys, thanks for watching my video, and I'll talk to you soon.